Hello guys, LukeJ speaking. Welcome to Book Reviews, the return of Book Reviews. This is episode 22, and today I got a book to read called Priceless Memories. I'd like to thank you for giving me the chance to read Street Gangs because it's been a whole lot of fun to read like 20 plus chapters in the book. And plus, we gotta have much more time for this in order for me to stay focused on the book. Now, before we begin the book reviews, episode number 22, I'd like to honestly wish my friend Alex Paris a happy birthday today, which is taped on the 30th of January. And secondly, I am not feeling well. I am gotta get better first thing in the morning, but otherwise I do not feel good. Cause I just feel like I need some rest today. I already got my second COVID shot yesterday, as you saw on my Friday show, and I feel like numb today. Wasn't feeling right, you know? So once COVID is over, I just wish that you have to do something, you know, without just wearing masks or something, because I'm not a person who likes to wear masks ever in my life, period. Once COVID is over, I'm just going to take off the mask, throw it in the garbage can, and things like that. So without further ado, let's just read Priceless Memories with Bob Barker. With Digby Dale. I'm gonna read you just one part of the book, and because would be before I have to rest today. And it's this book I'm gonna read is something a little bit different, and it has a lot of pages. Let me see how many pages there were. Well, from one, two, yeah, about 14 chapters, and it has about 233 pages to turn to 14 final chapter. But we'll get to that once we get done with this book, when we finish this book and over time. So right now, let's get to a phone call from Ralph Edwards. Preface. That was chapter. That'll be Preface. So I'm gonna read this now and see what we got, shall we? See what we got. A phone call from Ralph Edwards. That was Preface, by the way. If you're 50 years old or younger, I have been known on national television your entire life. I would like to begin this book by telling you how I got there, how it was meant to read. It's full of overnight success stories. The urban legend of the discovery of Lana Turner in Schwab's drugstore is the best known example. Okay. But the entertainment business doesn't really work that way. Before the producers are really the risk of a lot of money on you, they demanded proof on your ability, your experience, your professionalism, something like that. I can pronounce this word, something like that. In other words, they take many years of hard work to become an overnight success. On the other hand, I received one unforgettable phone call from Ralph Edwards. They truly made, next page, possible everything else that happened to me in a long and fortunate life. My overnight success began in 1956, nearly 7 years after my wife Dorothy Joe and I have moved to Hollywood. In pursuit of audience participation hosts. Wow. Opportunities for me. At the time, I was doing a weekly radio show on the local CBS station for Southern California edition. It was called The Bob Barker Show, which I've seen in the retirement program. You know, that's just me. On in 2007, which is LGBM year. But anyway, um, I named it myself. Darby Joe produced the show. Southern California Edition wasn't, and it is, the electric power company for almost all the Los Angeles Nation era. At the time, Edison monitored what they called electric living centers all over the service area. Initially, the centers were appliance showrooms with fear scenes and a microphone. Wow. On the stage were offshore range, refrigerators, freezers, washers, and dryers. Anything that it would use electricity. They were the gleaming modern furnishings on the Dream kitchen of the mid 1950s. Um, and the Edison Centers offered restaurant demos in the hope that people would go out and buy new electric appliances for their homes. Edison didn't necessarily care whatever you bought, Weston or Hot Point of Maytag, as long as it plugs in. Okay. My show featured homemakers who attended these demonstrations and wanted to be on the radio. What is that? Yeah, fake call for someone. But anyway, Darby Joe and I would visit 2 different cities a day. During doing a show in each city, walking a lot of miles, traveling out the rapidly growing suburbs of Los Angeles, including Ponamba, Santa Bernardino, Oxnard, and Vernonia. Sometimes as far away as Manchester to visit the Exxon Electric Living Centers is broadcast on the KNX radio. Okay. One day, shortly after Thanksgiving 1956, Ralph Edwards was driving his daughters, who were little girls at the time, in those days, to the ice skating lesson. Say it was my good fortune that he turned his car radio and tuned into the Bob Barker show in an understatement. Ralph Edwards was already a broadcasting legend. Wow. Began as a radio announcer, he went on to become a producer of This Is Your Life, and the long list of other shows included, of course, Truth or Consequences. Truth or Consequences was Ralph's own creation. It was based on a game he played on the family farm as a kid. Okay? I have been a fan of Ralph Edwards. I used to listen to him when he was hosted Truth or Consequences on the radio, which we began doing in 1940. Wow. He painted such a vivid picture of what was happening that you didn't have to see it, describing things that with such flair, the detail that you enjoy every moment of it. In 1930, from 50, excuse me, I misspoke. Okay. In 1950, they brought Truth or Consequences to television, okay? And Ralph hosted the version as well until 1954, when Jack, the queen of for the day, Bailey, took over. When we come to California, Darby Joe and I used to go watch Truth or Consequences live. Ralph built and maintained a tremendous level of excitement. He was also frantic in the way that he bounded around the stage of Truth. Not at all he appeared. This Is Your Life. Okay. Initially, after playing a joke on the contestant, Ralph would look at the camera and say for the viewers, "Alright, next page, okay? Are we devils?" People all over this country picked up it and were saying Henri Devils. Let me just hold on. Let me get to the last page where we said earlier. Oh yeah. Okay. Um, it was the same thing that was happening with Come On Down a couple of decades later. Wow. By late 1956, Darby Joe and I had a small advertising agency on the Sunset Strip, for which we serve as advertisers for the Bob Barker Show. When I say small, I really mean small. Darby Joe and I were in it. They meant it were when I was out me, the client. She was the only one in the office. Ralph was called you. She says cautiously, and I walked to the door. This was nothing to casual about. You mean the famous Ralph Edwards? I asked. Well, I guess so. Darby Joe replied. They um they said Ralph Edwards Productions. Wow. Okay. I started getting excited when what did he want? I asked. The lady who called said he wants to talk to you. Um, give me that number, and I sat down immediately and dialed that number. Ralph came on the line quickly, and he said, "I'm calling you because I have a show called Truth of Consequences that going back on TV. It's a daytime program. I'd like to talk to you about the possibility of you hosting it." Wow. Okay. Um, I would hardly believe my ears if I managed to say yes, sir. I was wondering what when it be like consequent for you to see me. Ralph said. I knew that Ralph Edwards Productions was located on Hollywood Boulevard at the corner of Cordet. I said, "I'll be right over." Okay. I'll be in your office in 15 minutes. Wow. I did not know this, but okay, I misspoke. But anyway. Um, perhaps it's a bit too eager. Started getting up and head for the door. Even more before I hang up the phone, the cord pulled me up short. Wow. With a smile on his voice, Ralph assured me that it wouldn't be necessary to be there in 15 minutes. "Bob," he said, "how about tomorrow or the next day?" Wow. I probably said, let's make it tomorrow. Ralph chuckled and he set up the time for our meeting. Ralph Hours Productions had what look to me like a complete floor, office in every direction. Although the young lady at the desk near the elevator, now I was Bob Barker, and I had an appointment with Mr. Edwards. She asked me, Ralph or Paul Edwards? Wow, Ralph Edwards. I spoke as I walked down the hall. It seems as if there was one, two, or sometimes three people, but busily working away in the office on both sides of the hall. I thought this is the only busy place. Okay, excuse me. Years to come, I learned how right I was. When I reached Rob's office, the door was standing open, and he was sitting at the desk, writing. Can I come through the door? He quickly rose and stepped around his huge desk, extending his hand. He said, "Young man, I like the way you do your radio show." As he shook hands, he closed his office door behind me. It closed a chair for me near his desk and sat down in his own chair. Next page. Of course, Ralph's opening remark that he liked my work on radio and just wonders to put me at ease, which was probably exactly what it said to do. Ralph looked even younger. He was 42. Wow. Okay. Then he had look when Darby Joe and I have attended his show. He was wearing a bright brown, perfectly lip-fitted, single-breasted suit, a white shirt, and dark brown and yellow tie. I thought he looked every inch. The television star and producer that indeed he was. His office was spacious and beautifully furnished in brown beige. Wow, okay. It was just the two of us. Ralph and I sat and talked. He asked some questions about my background and about my experience doing audience prediction shows. Okay, and apparently my years of interviewing regular folks and initiating electric living center struck him as good variation for true consequences. Okay, makes sense, but okay. What do you want to do before you came to California? Ralph asked. I told him I had gotten my start as KTTS in Springfield, Missouri. Okay, when I was in college. Wow. Okay. That's exactly how I started radio when I was at the University of California, Berkeley. Rob said, and I got the expression that he would plead when I was in that was at the common. Ralph wanted to know if I was married, and I told him that I married my high school sweetheart. That was my wife, produced my radio shows. Splendid, he said. I think we may be onto something here. I'll be in touch. Initially, Paul Edwards was Ralph's older brother. I ended up doing True Consequences for Ralph for 18 years. Not once did Ralph and I argue about money, and I agree with that. Paul always handled that. Yeah. A few days after my first meeting with Ralph, he called me and said, I'd like to have you come in and meet some of the people you will be working with, and if you did True Consequences. I went back and I had a pleasant meeting with them, and at the end of the meeting, Ralph said, I'll be in touch. Wow. When I left, and I have no idea whenever it was like me or not. They like me or not, excuse me. But shortly thereafter, Ralph called and invited me to another meeting. He wanted me to meet some of the representatives and a few others. At the time, MCA had both a talent and a production arm, and they presented Ralph. This time, when I got there, I was looking at the room full of people. Long before the movie Men in Black, MCA agents were often described by journalists and industry pundits as men in the black suits. When I arrived, I found that their nickname was richly deserved. All three of the men from MCA were clad in virtually in black suits. Also present were executives from NBC, as well as a couple of people from Ralph's production company, and of course, Ralph himself. We sat and talked and some more. And at the end of the meeting, Ralph gave me a cherry smile, and like previous meetings, said, I'll be in touch. Okay? By the time I was beginning to think, Barker, can he tolerate many more of these meetings? Can he last them through this? In reality, only a short of time has passed since our initial conversation. The days between meetings seem to be stretched on indefinitely. Okay? I never knew when I heard from him again, or if I haven't heard from him again. It was right around my birthday, December the 12th, which is Bob Barker's birthday, that is, 1956. He was, I'm not sure how he is at the time, but when he finally called once more about the show was to be televised on NBC. Wow. Well, who had the connections with all the networks, asked me to come down to what is still the oldest CBS television station in the country on Sunset Boulevard in what is as Gopher Gulch. Wow. At the time, it was nerve center for all of CBS nationally, locally, and everyone else, I guess. Ralph wanted me to be doing audition before a live studio audience. We went over the script, and he told me what he wanted me to do. The show was a segment of Truth or Consequences. Would you like to have somebody to do the warm up for you? He asked. No, I said. I want to do it myself. Bob, would you like to have someone select your contestants? Thanks, Bob, but no. I responded. I want to do it that too. And after a warm introduction by a CBS staff announcer, I went on stage and I went out into the studio audience to select my contestants. I try not to look at Dorothy Joe, and I agree with that. You don't need to. She was seated in the audience and leading the applause, laughing at every word. And I said, turn to the others who had no idea she was my wife, and saying, isn't he wonderful? And I agree with her big time. I chose my contestant and when we did the show, just like a live radio show. As many of you will recall, the basic idea of Truth or Consequences was simple. A contestant was asked a lesson array question, such as in the days in the Old West, what does it mean to a gunfire have notches in the gun handle? The correct answer was terminates, where you pronounce it. I don't know how you pronounce that, sorry. For having failed to answer the question, the contestant had to pay the consequences, which would be hopefully a hilarious stunt. I never heard of the show, but it started to make me laugh. The basic idea of the show was simple enough. The consequences could get complicated, and I shall describe later. After what you've done for the few years, you know when it's going well. I knew this afternoon would have gone well. I got laughs and the consequences work. And I agree. I maybe agree. It's kind of like a reaction channel, which has a conversation like that, especially some Smosh channel, which is over the years, you know. That's just me. When I come off the stage, Ralph was waiting in the wings, smiling. I can tell you he was pleased. That went nicely. He said warmly, if you don't do Twins Consequences for me, I'll have another shows that you might do. But so far as Twins Consequences are concerned, I'll be in touch. Wow! That was not what I'm hoping to hear. I don't want to do another show sometime in the future. I want to do Truth or Consequences right now. And I agree. I agree with Bob at this point. Sometime in the future might never come. I try to smile with my best smile as I have said, thank you, Mr. Edwards. I went home worried and frustrated. And I disagree, and I feel worried for Bob. There seemed to be no ends to the number of hoops I would be asked to jump through. Worse yet, Ralph called a few days later and informed me that what we both thought in the successful audition was not really a television audition. And I agree. At all. Since no one had actually seen me on camera, he asked if I would come down to the old El Cabin Sphere in Hollywood, where they were producing the Tennessee Edward Arnie Ford show. Excuse me. Anyway, so they could check out my on-camera appearance during the break. Wow. I have no idea who they were, but they held my future in their hands. Wow. Joe Ennis was one of the pioneering directors in the early days of television, and he was doing Tennessee's Ernie show. And as soon as I arrived, they hustled me into makeup and put me in front of the camera to say a few lines with Joe during breaks. In the Tennessee Ernie Ford show rehearsal, Ralph was in the next page. Hold on. It's gonna take me a while. Okay. Ralph was in the booth with a bunch of other people. Oh God, help me! And they were all looking initially at me. I was about to find out whether I had a face made for radio. Flurry Ralph came out of the booth and said the dreaded words, "I'll be in touch." Wow. Went home to deposited it. Darby Joe commiserated and tried to console me. I began to wonder if "I'll be in touch" was one of those Hollywood phrases that it was a vomiting for someone more ominous. Can these people make up their minds? And I agree with Bob. A few days later, I got the answer on December 21st, 1956, exactly 5 minutes past noon. Ralph Edwards called me and told me I was the official host of True Consequences. It will always be the most important telephone call of my professional career, and it changed my whole life. Wow. That first national show paved the way for the wonderful half century I have ever had on television. At the time, I certainly did not feel like an overnight success, especially after the ordeal of the last few weeks. But that was the way May of the initial saw it. Moreover, when I tell that story, some people struggle and say if Ralph Edwards hadn't called, someone else would have. Maybe not. Maybe I would have spent my entire life going to Verdra and Oxnard doing the Southern California edition shows, where you pronounce it, okay? But Ralph did call, and I signed a contract shortly thereafter. Ralph made all the difference in my life. 10 days later, we went on the air with our first show. It was New Year's Eve, December 31st, 1956. I was always grateful to Ralph for his support and the kind words in that show. After reminding the audience that Truth and Consequences was the grande of audience predation shows, be gradually, introduced me as a young man with one of the brightest futures in television. And over the years, he did his best to make the predictions come true. As we look at it today, the first show was a sweet period piece, a slash 1950s write down, the Slum Buttbaker prize, and the Savings Bond promotion, with Ralph's glowing introduction of me and the excitement of our special guest, former heavyweight champion Jack Dempsey. We got the show off to the rousing start, and the contestants did the rest. But the phone call was everything to me, and it came after a long string of "I'll be in touch" promises, and I agree with that. But it was also the beginning of the bond with Ralph Edwards that lasted a lifetime. He became not only my champion, but my mentor as my dear friend. He and his wife, Barbara, but became close to Dorothy, Joe, and me, and really took us under their wing. Every year on December 21st, Ralph and I had lunch together, and then at 5 minutes after noon, we drank a toast to our long and enduring friendship. Ralph passed away in 2005 on that date. At that time, I always pause to thank him. I'll get to chapter 1 next episode. So, I would like to thank you for sure enough in the purser telephone call from Ralph Edwards. This is amazing to see what's next in Priceless Memories. Bob Barker with Digby Doll. Double episode of book reviews, episode 22. Hope you enjoy it. Stay tuned for the next one. It's going to be chapter 1 of this book of Priceless Memories, Bob Buck, which is episode 23. Until next time, so Jerry's goodbye. Peace out, baby. We get more episodes, guys, very soon. Till then, Jump State out. See ya.